They called her the Invisible Mrs. Sterling. For 3 years, Lily walked 2 steps behind her husband Alexander Sterling, the ruthless CEO of Titan Global. To the world, she was nothing more than a dull, silent accessory, a woman he married for a merger and forgot the next day. He ignored her tears, mocked her silence, and even brought his mistress to family dinners. But tonight, at the most exclusive gala in New York City, Alexander is about to make the biggest mistake of his life. He thinks he's walking in with a helpless wife. He has no idea he's about to introduce the world to the one person capable of destroying his entire empire. Watch carefully, because tonight the invisible wife finally speaks, and the world will never be the same. The rain battered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse overlooking Central Park West, but the atmosphere inside was colder than the storm brewing over Manhattan. Lily adjusted the strap of her modest beige dress, a piece she had bought off the rack at Macy's 2 years ago. It was fraying slightly at the hem, but she doubted anyone would notice. In this house, Lily was less significant than the imported Italian marble beneath her feet. "Are you still standing there?" The voice was deep, sharp, and devoid of warmth. Alexander Sterling walked into the foyer adjusting his diamond-encrusted Patek Philippe cufflinks. He didn't look at her. He never looked at her. He only looked past her. "I asked if you were ready, Lily. We are leaving in 3 minutes. The Obsidian Gala does not wait for your incompetence." Alexander snapped, checking his reflection in the antique mirror. He looked impeccable in a bespoke Tom Ford tuxedo, every inch the billionaire power player who controlled half of New York's real estate market. "I've been ready for an hour, Alexander," Lily said softly. Her voice was gentle, melodic, but it seemed to grate on his nerves. He finally turned his icy blue eyes, sweeping over her with distinct disdain. He grimaced. You're wearing that." Lily looked down at her dress. "It's the only one I have that fits the dress code, Alexander. You canceled my credit cards last week, remember?" Alexander scoffed, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. "I canceled them because you don't need to spend money. You stay home, you cook, you clean. Why would a housewife need a credit limit?" He stepped closer, towering over her, smelling of expensive scotch and the faint cloying scent of Chanel No. 5, a perfume Lily didn't own. "It's humiliating," he hissed, leaning down to whisper in her ear. "My partners will be there, the board of directors, investors from Dubai, and I have to walk in with you, a plain, boring, uneducated woman who brings nothing to the table." Lily's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her face impassive. 3 years. She had endured this for 3 years. The arranged marriage had been a business deal between Alexander's father and her late uncle to save the Sterling Empire from bankruptcy. She had given up her freedom, her dreams, and her identity to be his wife, and in return he treated her like an unwanted obligation. "I can stay home if you prefer," she said quietly, testing him. "And let the press speculate that our marriage is failing right before the IPO launches." Alexander laughed coldly. "No. You will come. You will stand beside me. You will smile. And you will not speak unless spoken to. Do you understand?" "Yes, Alexander." "Good. Now put on this coat. At least cover that rag up." He threw a heavy trench coat at her. It wasn't hers. It smelled like her Sophia Vance, his chief marketing officer, his right hand, his mistress. Lily took the coat without a word. As she buttoned it up, hiding her beige dress, a spark of something dangerous flickered in her eyes. A look Alexander missed because he was too busy texting on his phone. "Let's go," he commanded, opening the door. Outside, the sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom awaited them. The driver, an older man named Henry, who had always been kind to Lily, opened the door with a sympathetic look. "Good evening, Mrs. Sterling," Henry murmured. "Hello, Henry." She smiled weakly. As she slid into the leather interior, Alexander got in the other side and immediately raised the partition, cutting them off from the driver. He pulled out a tablet and began reviewing stock charts. The silence in the car was suffocating. Lily looked out the window as the city lights blurred by. They were heading to the Pierre Hotel on Fifth Avenue for the Obsidian Gala, the most prestigious business event of the year. Every major player in finance, tech, and fashion would be there. "Alexander," Lily said, breaking the silence. He didn't look up. "What?" "I heard the keynote speaker tonight is the mysterious CEO of Aura Inc., the tech startup that just surpassed Titan Global in Q3 earnings." Alexander stiffened. He slammed the tablet down. "Don't speak about Aura. They are a fluke, a ghost company. No one even knows who runs it. Probably some lucky kid in a basement." "They say the CEO is a genius," Lily continued, her voice steady. "That they developed a new algorithm for sustainable energy that renders Titan's oil contracts obsolete." "Enough!" Alexander shouted, his face turning red. "You know nothing about business, Lily. You dropped out of college to nurse your sick aunt. You read gossip magazines, not financial reports. Do not lecture me on my competitors." Lily turned back to the window, a small, sad smile touching her lips. "I wasn't lecturing Alexander. I was just making conversation." "Well, don't," he spat. "Stick to what you're good at, being invisible." The car slowed to a halt. Flashes of light exploded outside the tinted windows. The paparazzi were swarming. The red carpet awaited. "Here we go," Alexander muttered, fixing his tie. "Remember the rules. Smile. Nod. Shut up." He opened the door and stepped out into the blinding lights. The cameras went wild. "Mr. Sterling. Over here. Alexander." He turned back, extending a hand to Lily, not out of chivalry, but for the photo op. Lily took it, stepping out onto the red carpet. The flashes were disorienting, but she stood tall. As they walked toward the entrance, a reporter from Vanity Fair thrust a microphone in Alexander's face. "Mr. Sterling, there are rumors that Titan Global is losing its grip on the Asian market. Is it true that Sophia Vance is taking over international relations?" Alexander flashed his charming, media-ready smile. "Sophia is an invaluable asset. Titan has never been stronger. And as for my wife," he gestured dismissively to Lily, "she's just happy to be here supporting me." It was Sophia Vance. "Alexander," she purred, ignoring Lily completely. She walked right up to him and brushed lint off his lapel. "You're late. The board is waiting." Alexander's demeanor changed instantly. He softened. "Traffic was a nightmare, Sophia. You look breathtaking." "I know." She winked. Then she slowly turned her gaze to Lily. Her eyes raked over the trench coat. "Oh, Lily, you came. How quaint. Did you bring a Tupperware container to take home leftovers?" Alexander chuckled. He actually chuckled. Lily looked Sophia dead in the eye. "Good evening, Sophia. That shade of red is very bold. It almost hides the fact that you're trembling." Sophia's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Trembling? Why would I be trembling?" "Because," Lily whispered, leaning in so only Sophia and Alexander could hear, "I heard the CEO of Aura Inc. is actually here tonight, and once they take the stage, Titan Global's stock is going to drop by 40%. I'd be trembling too if my entire net worth was tied to a sinking ship." Sophia laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "Listen to her, Alexander. The housewife thinks she's a stock analyst now. Cute." Alexander grabbed Lily's arm, his grip bruising. "Stop embarrassing me," he hissed. "Go find a corner and stay there. Sophia and I have real work to do." He released her and offered his arm to Sophia. Together they walked into the ballroom, leaving Lily standing alone at the entrance. Lily watched them go. She reached up and touched the top button of the heavy trench coat Sophia had mocked. "Henry," she whispered into a tiny earpiece hidden beneath her hair. "Yes, ma'am." The driver's voice crackled in her ear. "Is the package ready?" "It is Mrs. Sterling, or should I say, Madam CEO." Lily smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had shown all night. "It's showtime." The grand ballroom of the Pierre was a sea of velvet silk and old money. Chandeliers the size of small cars hung from the gold-leafed ceiling, casting a warm glow over New York's elite. Waiters in white gloves moved silently through the crowd, carrying trays of caviar and vintage Dom Perignon. She watched as Alexander laughed at something Sophia said, his hand resting comfortably on the small of her back. It was a public display of intimacy that humiliated Lily without a word being spoken. Lily grabbed a glass of sparkling water from a passing tray and drifted closer, staying in the shadows of a large marble pillar. "The Asian deal is in the bag," Alexander was boasting, his voice carrying over the music. "Once we sign the contract with the Saito Group next week, Titan will be untouchable." "Brilliant work, Alex," Marcus Thorne said, raising his glass. "And Sophia, your strategy on the logistics was impeccable." "Thank you, Marcus," Sophia beamed. "It helps when you have a partner who trusts your vision, unlike some dead weight." The men chuckled uncomfortably. They knew she was talking about Lily. Just then the music dimmed. The lights lowered, focusing on a massive stage at the front of the room. A hush fell over the crowd. The host, a famous news anchor from CNN, stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Obsidian Gala. Tonight is a night of surprises. As you know, we have a very special keynote speaker. For the last 2 years, the business world has been rocked by the meteoric rise of Aura Inc. Their green tech patents have revolutionized the energy sector, but the founder has remained a ghost. Tonight, for the first time ever, the CEO of Aura Inc. will reveal their identity." A murmur of excitement rippled through the room. Alexander whispered to Sophia, "I bet it's that tech brat from Silicon Valley. Watch me tear him apart during the Q&A." "You'll crush him, darling," Sophia soothed. "Sophia." The host continued, "But before that, we have a special musical performance. A classical piece requested specifically by the founder of Aura Inc. to set the tone for the evening. Please welcome the pianist." A spotlight hit a grand Steinway piano in the center of the stage. The bench was empty. Suddenly a voice rang out from the back of the room. It was Alexander's voice. "Where is she?" he hissed, looking around. He had spotted Lily standing near the pillar. He stormed over to her, abandoning Sophia for a moment. "What are you doing standing there like a gargoyle?" Alexander snapped when he reached Lily. "Take that ridiculous coat off. You look like a flasher." "I'm cold, Alexander," Lily said calmly. "You're an embarrassment. Look, Mr. Abernathy is watching. Go say hello to him. And for God's sake, try to sound intelligent. Don't mention your recipes or your knitting." Lily looked at her husband, really looked at him. "Do you remember what today is, Alexander?" He frowned, checking his Rolex. "Tuesday. What does that matter? It's our 3rd anniversary." Alexander rolled his eyes. "Oh, grow up. I bought you that house in the Hamptons last year. Isn't that enough?" "I don't want a house, Alex. I wanted a partner." "You are not my partner," his voice raised, drawing the attention of people nearby. "You are a dependent. You are a charity case my father forced on me. Sophia is a partner. You are baggage." The words hung in the air, cruel, final. Lily nodded slowly. "I see. Thank you for clarifying, Alexander. I won't be baggage anymore." "Good. Now go sit down and shut up." Alexander turned his back on her and walked back to Sophia, who was smirking triumphantly. "What did she want?" Sophia asked, loud enough for Lily to hear. "Just whining about an anniversary." Alexander sighed. "She's so needy. It's pathetic." At that moment, the stage manager walked onto the stage looking confused. He whispered to the host. The host looked nervous. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host stammered, "it seems our pianist has been delayed. Is there anyone in the audience who plays? We need to fill 5 minutes while we resolve a technical issue for the CEO's entrance." The room went silent. It was awkward. Sophia's eyes lit up with malice. She grabbed the microphone from a passing waiter. "Oh, I have a suggestion," Sophia announced, her voice booming through the speakers. "Alexander's wife, Lily. She plays, doesn't she? I think I saw a dusty old keyboard in their attic once." The crowd laughed. Alexander looked horrified. "Sophia, what are you doing?" he hissed. "Relax," she whispered. "Let her go up there and fumble through 'Mary Had a Little Lamb.' It will show everyone why you need me and not her. It justifies the divorce you're planning." "Lily Sterling," Sophia called out, pointing a manicured finger at Lily, who was still standing by the pillar in her oversized trench coat. "Why don't you play for us unless you're too scared?" The spotlight swung around, blinding Lily. 300 of the world's most powerful people stared at her. Some looked pitying. Most looked mocking. Alexander covered his face with his hand. "Don't do it, Lily. Just shake your head," he muttered to himself. But Lily didn't shake her head. She took a step forward. The crowd murmured. She took another step. "She's actually going to do it," someone whispered. "Look at her. She looks like a homeless person in that coat." Lily walked through the crowd. The sea of tuxedos and gowns parted for her. She walked with a strange fluid grace that Alexander had never noticed before. She reached the stairs of the stage. She climbed them, the heels of her cheap shoes clicking on the wood. She walked to the center of the stage, standing next to the 10-foot Steinway. The spotlight was hot on her face. Sophia was laughing into her champagne glass. Alexander looked ready to kill someone. Lily stood before the microphone. She looked out at the audience, her eyes locking onto Alexander's. "My husband," she said, her voice clear and steady, amplified through the massive speakers, "thinks I am invisible. He thinks I have no voice. He thinks the only thing I am good for is silence." The room went deathly quiet. This was not the script. "But silence," Lily continued, "is not empty. Silence is full of answers. And sometimes silence is where the music begins." She turned away from the microphone. She didn't sit at the bench yet. Instead, her hands went to the buttons of the heavy trench coat. "Oh God, what is she doing?" Alexander groaned. "She's going to strip." Lily undid the top button, then the second, then the third. She shrugged her shoulders, and the dirty, heavy trench coat slid down her arms and pooled onto the floor. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. Underneath the coat there was no beige rag from Macy's. Lily was wearing a gown that looked like it was woven from starlight. It was a shimmering midnight blue masterpiece that clung to her body, encrusted with thousands of real sapphires. It was a dress that cost more than Alexander's entire car collection. On her neck sat a necklace that made the women in the front row gasp the blue moon diamond, a stone thought to be lost for decades. She looked regal, powerful, terrifyingly beautiful. Alexander's jaw dropped. Sophia dropped her glass. It shattered on the floor, but no one looked at her. Lily sat at the piano. She didn't hesitate. She didn't play a nursery rhyme. Her fingers crashed onto the keys. She began to play Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C-sharp minor. It was powerful, dark, and technically impossible for an amateur. Her hands flew across the keys with the precision of a master. The music thundered through the ballroom, demanding attention, demanding respect. Alexander stared, unable to blink. He had lived with this woman for 3 years. He had never seen her touch a piano. As the final thunderous chords echoed into silence, Lily didn't stand up to bow. She stayed seated, turned to the microphone, and spoke one sentence that stopped Alexander's heart. "Now that I have your attention, my name is not just Lily Sterling. I am the founder and CEO of Aura Inc. And Alexander, we need to talk about your stock portfolio." The silence that followed Lily's declaration was heavy, physical. It pressed against Alexander's chest, making it impossible to breathe. Aura Inc. The name echoed in his mind. The company that had been a thorn in his side for 18 months. The company that had stolen the government energy contract in Nevada. The company he had called a lucky fluke less than an hour ago in the car. And his wife, the woman he scolded for spending too much on groceries, was the CEO. "This is a joke," Alexander stammered, his voice cracking. He looked around at the board members, desperate for validation. "It's a sick joke. She's mentally unstable. She's..." She's hallucinating. But no one was looking at Alexander. Every eye was fixed on the stage. Lily stood up from the piano bench. The midnight blue gown shimmered under the stage lights, making her look like a goddess of war. She walked to the center of the stage, the microphone in hand, and looked down at her husband with an expression of cool, detached pity. "I assure you, Alexander, my mental health is excellent," Lily said, her voice amplified through the Pierre Hotel's state-of-the-art sound system. "Which is more than I can say for Titan Global's Q3 balance sheet." A ripple of nervous laughter went through the crowd. Alexander's face turned a violent shade of purple. He marched toward the stage stairs. "Get down here now, you are making a scene." He reached for the railing, but two massive security guards in black suits stepped in front of him. They weren't the hotel security. They were her security. "Step back, Mr. Sterling," one of them rumbled. "Excuse me," Alexander roared. "That is my wife. Get out of my way." "Let him come up," Lily commanded softly. The guard stepped aside. Alexander scrambled up the stairs, fueled by rage and adrenaline. He stormed up to her, invading her personal space. His finger pointed in her face. "I don't know what game you're playing," he hissed away from the mic, but loud enough for the front row to hear. "But you are going to apologize to everyone. Tell them you're drunk and we are going home. You stole that dress, didn't you? And that necklace. It's fake." Lily didn't flinch. She simply raised her hand and signaled to the tech booth at the back of the room. "Projector, please," she said. Behind them, a massive screen descended from the ceiling. The logo of Aura Inc., a sleek golden phoenix, appeared. "Alexander," Lily said into the microphone, addressing the entire room, "you mentioned earlier tonight that Titan Global is about to sign a historic deal with the Saito Group of Japan, a deal that would save your company from its current liquidity crisis." Alexander froze. "That is confidential information." "Is it?" Lily smiled. The screen behind her changed. It displayed a legal document signed and dated 3 hours ago. "This is the acquisition contract between the Saito Group and Aura Inc., Lily announced. "As of 5:00 p.m. today, the Saito Group has decided to partner exclusively with Aura for their renewable energy expansion. Titan Global has been dropped." The room exploded. "What?" Marcus Thorne, the chairman of Titan's board, shouted from the floor. "Alexander, is this true?" Alexander stared at the screen. He saw the signature of Mr. Saito. He saw the date. "No," Alexander whispered. "No, they promised me. We had a verbal agreement." "Business is not built on verbal agreements, Alexander. You of all people should know that," Lily said. Mr. Saito was concerned about Titan's leadership. He felt the CEO was distracted, spending too much time on logistics with his marketing officer. She cast a glance at Sophia Vance, who was currently trying to hide behind a waiter. You sabotaged me," Alexander choked out. "You ruined me." "I didn't ruin you," Lily replied calmly. "I simply outbid you. My technology is better, my team is faster, and my CEO isn't busy cheating on his spouse during board meetings." The crowd gasped. Phones were out. This was being live-streamed to millions. The Invisible Wife was already trending on Twitter. Sophia Vance, realizing her ship was sinking, decided to attack. She pushed her way to the front of the stage. "You liar!" Sophia shrieked, her poise completely gone. "You're just a bitter housewife. You don't know anything about tech. Who's really running the company? Which man are you sleeping with to pretend you're the boss?" Lily looked down at Sophia. The difference in their stature was immense. Sophia looked manic, desperate. Lily looked like royalty. "Sophia," Lily said, her voice dropping an octave. "Do you remember the bug in the Titan internal server last month? The one that leaked the confidential marketing budget?" Sophia paled. "Yes, it was a hacker." "It wasn't a hacker," Lily said. "It was me. I was sitting on the couch next to Alexander while he watched football. I rewrote your firewall code in 20 minutes because I was bored. I saw your budget, Sophia, including the $200,000 you embezzled into a shell company in the Cayman Islands under the name Vance Ventures. Silence. Absolute terrified silence. Sophia took a step back, her hands trembling. That's slander. It's on the screen, Lily pointed. Sure enough, the screen had changed. Bank transfers, dates, amounts, proof of embezzlement. Marcus, Lily called out to the chairman of the board. I believe Titan Global has a zero-tolerance policy for theft. Marcus Thorne turned to Sophia, his face grim. Security, he barked. Escort Ms. Vance to the manager's office and call the police. No, Alexander, do something, Sophia screamed as hotel security grabbed her arms. Alexander did nothing. He stood on the stage staring at his wife as if she were an alien. His empire was crumbling, his mistress was being arrested, and the woman he had ignored for 3 years was holding the sledgehammer. Why? Alexander asked, his voice hollow. Why did you wait? Why did you pretend to be nothing? Lily stepped closer to him. She turned off the microphone so only he could hear. Because, Alexander, if I had shown you who I was the day we met, you would have tried to control me. You would have taken my ideas and called them yours. You would have crushed me. She leaned in, her eyes burning with cold fire. I had to become nothing, so I could build everything. She turned back to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Aura Inc. is proud to lead the future of energy. And for the Titan Global shareholders in the room, my advice: sell. She dropped the mic. Lily turned and walked off the stage, her sapphire gown trailing behind her like a river of stars. She didn't look back at Alexander, who was left standing alone in the spotlight, a king without a crown. How does a woman locked in a gilded cage build a key to the world? Most people assumed Lily Sterling spent her days shopping, gossiping, and waiting for her husband. That was the narrative Alexander had crafted. That was the narrative the world believed. But the truth was far more dangerous. The flashback begins 3 years ago, just 2 months after the wedding. Lily was sitting in the library of the Sterling estate. It was 2:00 a.m. Alexander had not come home. He rarely did in those days, claiming late meetings, though the scent of different perfumes on his collar told a different story. Lily was crying. She felt trapped. Her uncle had passed away shortly after the wedding, leaving her with no family and no money. The prenuptial agreement Alexander had forced her to sign was draconian. In the event of a divorce, she would get nothing. No alimony, no assets. Unless... She reread the clause on page 45 of the prenup. Clause 12b. Any assets acquired by either party independently through funds not commingled with the marital estate shall remain the sole property of that party. Alexander had included it to protect his own future investments. He never imagined his wife would use it. Lily wiped her eyes. She wasn't just a nice girl from the suburbs. Before the arranged marriage disrupted her life, she had been a prodigy. She had been accepted to MIT at 16, a mathematics genius with a scholarship waiting. But her family's debt and her uncle's illness had forced her to decline to stay home to marry rich to save the family name. But her brain hadn't stopped working. That night she opened an old laptop she had hidden in her vanity. It was slow-battered and 5 years old. She logged into a developer forum under the username Ghost Protocol. I need capital, she whispered to the empty room. She started small. She didn't have money to invest, but she had skill. She began taking freelance coding jobs on the dark web. Legitimate work, but anonymous. Fixing security flaws for crypto exchanges, optimizing high-frequency trading algorithms for shady hedge funds. She worked while Alexander slept. She worked while he was at parties. When he demanded she sit silently at dinner, she was mentally calculating code structures. Within 6 months, she had saved $50,000. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Then came the breakthrough. Lily had always been fascinated by renewable energy inefficiency. The problem with solar and wind wasn't generation, it was storage. The batteries were too heavy, too expensive, and degraded too fast. One afternoon, while visiting her sick aunt, A cover story she used to go to the public library, she sketched out a chemical formula on the back of a grocery receipt. It was a new way to structure lithium ions using a graphene lattice. If it worked, it would increase battery capacity by 500% and cut costs in half. She needed a lab. She couldn't do this in the penthouse. Enter the aunt. Aunt Marie wasn't a blood relative. She was actually Marie Claire, a disgraced former chemistry professor who had been fired from Columbia University for being too radical, too difficult, and too brilliant. She lived in a run-down brownstone in Queens. Lily had met her at a park bench years ago. They bonded over chess. "I have the theory," Lily told Marie, slamming the receipt on the wobbly kitchen table in Queens. "I need your basement, and I need you to be the face." Marie, smoking a thin cigarette, looked at the formula. Her eyes widened. This is impossible." "It's math," Lily said. "It's perfect, but I can't be seen. If Alexander finds out, he claims it. He owns me." Marie grinned, showing yellowed teeth. "So we run a ghost operation. I like it. But we need money to build the prototype." "I have 50,000, Lily said. "That buys us glassware and chemicals. We need millions for patents and manufacturing." "Leave the money to me," Lily said. Lily went back to the penthouse. She needed a big win. She took her $50,000 and put it all into a high-risk leverage trade on a volatile pharmaceutical stock she had been analyzing. She used an algorithm she wrote herself to predict the FDA approval timing. It was a gamble. If she lost, she was back to zero. She sat in the bathroom of the master bedroom, the door locked, watching the numbers tick on her phone. Alexander was banging on the door. "Lily, we're late for the charity ball. What are you doing in there?" "Just a moment, darling, fixing my makeup," she called out, her voice sweet. On the screen, the stock spiked. It's 200%, 400%, 800%. She sold. In 10 minutes, she turned $50,000 into $450,000. She opened the door, looking flawless. "Ready, Alexander?" He grabbed her arm roughly. "You're slow. Try to be more efficient." "I'll work on that," she smiled. Over the next 2 years, the double life intensified. Lily was the dutiful wife by day, organizing galas, managing the staff, enduring Sophia's insults. By night, she was the architect of Aura Inc. She and Marie registered the company in Delaware under a shell corporation. They hired a proxy CEO, a deeply in-debt actor named Silas, trying to make ends meet to attend Zoom meetings and sign papers. Lily was the voice in his ear. When Aura Inc. launched its first prototype, the tech world went crazy. Titan Global, Alexander's company, tried to buy them out immediately. Lily sat at the dinner table that night cutting her steak. "This new company, Aura," Alexander grumbled, scrolling on his phone. "They rejected our offer. Arrogant idiots." "Maybe they want to stay independent," Lily suggested meekly. "They're stupid," Alexander snapped. "I'll crush them. I'll undercut their prices." "That sounds aggressive," she murmured. "That's business, Lily. Eat your vegetables." Lily hid a smile. She knew Alexander couldn't undercut them. Her production costs were 1/10 of his. Every move he made to fight Aura she had anticipated 3 weeks prior. She was playing chess. He was playing checkers. The hardest part was the loneliness. She couldn't tell anyone. Not her old friends, not the staff. She had to take the abuse, the invisible wife nickname, the humiliation. There was one close call. 6 months ago, Alexander came home early. Lily was in the study reviewing Aura's Q2 projections on her secret laptop. He walked in. Lily slammed the laptop shut, her heart stopping. "What's that?" Alexander asked, suspicious. "I've never seen that computer." It's for my recipes," Lily lied, her hands shaking. "I'm trying to organize a digital cookbook." Alexander laughed, a cruel, barking laugh. "A cookbook? You need a laptop for that. You really are bored, aren't you?" He walked over, picked up the laptop. Lily stopped breathing. If he opened it, he would see the Aura Inc. admin dashboard. He would see millions of dollars in liquid assets. He weighed it in his hands. Cheap plastic garbage, probably full of viruses. He tossed it back onto the desk. It slid across the wood and nearly fell off the edge. "Get ready," he said, turning away. "Sophia's coming over for dinner. Try not to burn the roast this time." Lily exhaled, her body trembling. That was the moment she knew. She couldn't stay in the shadows forever. She was too big, too powerful to be hidden in a plastic laptop. She began planning the reveal. She needed a stage big enough to ensure he couldn't hide the truth. She needed witnesses. She needed the Obsidian Gala, and she needed to hurt him where it mattered most, his wallet. Back in the present day, the flashback fades. Lily sits in the back of her own private limousine, not the Rolls-Royce Phantom, but a custom-armored Maybach. Aunt Marie Cleaner, now wearing a sharp suit, sits across from her. "You did it, kid." Marie grinned. "Did you see his face?" "I saw it," Lily said, looking out at the NYC skyline. "So what now?" Marie asked. "He's going to come for you. He's going to sue. He's going to try to freeze the accounts." Lily checked her phone. 150 missed calls from Alexander. "Let him try," Lily said, her eyes hard. "I didn't just build a company, Marie. I built a fortress. And tomorrow morning I'm launching the hostile takeover." "Takeover of what?" Lily smiled. "Titan Global. I don't just want to beat him. I want to buy his company and fire him." 72 hours after the gala, the war moved from the ballroom to the boardroom. Specifically, the mahogany-paneled conference room of Kane, Rexler & Associates, the most ruthless divorce law firm in Manhattan. Alexander sat at the head of the table, looking like a man who hadn't slept in 3 days. His eyes were bloodshot, his tie was slightly askew, and he was chain-smoking despite the no-smoking sign on the wall. Across from him sat Lily. She looked fresh, rested, and terrifyingly calm. She wore a sharp white power suit that made her look like the CEO. She was not the housewife she had been. Next to her was not a lawyer, but a single tablet computer. "Mr. Sterling," began Arthur Kane, Alexander's attorney, a man known as the Viper. "Let's be reasonable. You are claiming that Aura Inc. is marital property, but under New York equitable distribution laws—" "I don't care about the laws, Arthur." Alexander slammed his fist on the table. "I funded her life. I paid for the roof over her head while she played scientist in her basement. That technology belongs to the Sterling estate. I want 50% of Aura, and I want her to cease and desist the hostile takeover of Titan immediately." Alexander turned a venomous glare toward Lily. "You think you're smart, Lily? You're a fraud. You use my money to build your little toy company. That's commingling of assets. The prenup is void." Lily didn't blink. She tapped her tablet screen. "Arthur," Lily said, addressing the lawyer and ignoring her husband, "please turn your attention to page 45, clause 12b of the prenuptial agreement Alexander drafted." Arthur Kane adjusted his glasses and read the paper. He frowned. He read it again. He paled. "What?" Alexander demanded. "What does it say?" "It says—" Arthur cleared his throat nervously. "It says that any intellectual property created by a spouse using independent non-marital funds is sole property." "Alexander, did you give her money?" "I gave her an allowance for groceries." "And I spent every penny of that allowance on groceries," Lily interjected smoothly. "I have the receipts. The capital for Aura came from day trading profits I made using a $50,000 inheritance from my late Uncle Money that was specifically excluded from the marital estate per your lawyer's insistence to keep your family money safe." She slid a bank statement across the table. "Every dollar is traced, Alexander. I didn't use your money. I didn't use your electricity. I worked at the library. I didn't even use your internet. I used a hotspot. Aura Inc. is 100% mine. You get nothing." Alexander slumped back in his chair, defeated. He had built the cage so tight that he had locked himself out. "But," Lily continued, her voice turning icy. Since we are looking at financials, let's talk about Titan Global. Titan is none of your business, Alexander spat. Actually, as the owner of 15% of your outstanding shares, which I bought this morning through a shell company, it is very much my business. Lily stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city. Alexander, when I decided to buy Titan, I ran a full audit. I unleashed my best algorithms to comb through your servers. I expected to find mismanagement. I expected to find debt. But I didn't expect to find Project Hades. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Alexander stopped breathing. The cigarette fell from his fingers onto the expensive carpet. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. Don't lie to me. Lily turned, her eyes blazing. Project Hades, the subterranean storage facility in upstate New York. You've been taking contracts to dispose of Class A industrial toxic waste from chemical plants in China. But instead of processing it, you've been burying it in cheap barrels under a plot of land Titan owns. Arthur Kane looked at his client with horror. Alexander, tell me this isn't true. That's a federal crime. That's 20 years in prison. It saved the company $10 million a quarter, Alexander shouted, jumping up. The processing fees were too high. It was a business decision. No one lives there anyway. People live 3 miles downstream, Alexander, Lily said quietly. There's a town called Oakhaven. Have you noticed the cancer rates there have tripled in the last 5 years? Children are getting sick. And it's because of your leaking barrels. You can't prove that, Alexander snarled. The records are encrypted on a physical drive in my personal safe. You can't hack a piece of metal. Lily smiled. It was a terrifying smile. You're right. I couldn't hack your safe. But Sophia Vance knew the combination. Alexander froze. Sophia? She's currently in police custody for embezzlement, Lily explained. But she's very eager to reduce her sentence. I visited her this morning. I told her if she gave me the location of the Hades drive, I'd ask the DA for leniency. Lily picked up her purse. The FBI is raiding your office right now, Alexander. They have the drive. They have the soil samples. And they have Sophia's testimony. Alexander looked at his lawyer. Arthur Kane was already packing his briefcase. I can't represent you on this, Alexander, Arthur said coldly. I do divorce, not crimes against humanity. You're on your own. The lawyer walked out. Alexander was left alone with Lily. He looked small, broken. The arrogance was gone, replaced by the terrified realization that his life was over. Why? He whispered. Why go this far? You could have just divorced me. Why destroy me? Lily walked to the door. She paused, her hand on the handle. Because you didn't just ignore me, Alexander. You looked at me every day for 3 years and decided I didn't exist. You treated people like disposable objects, me, Sophia, the people in Oakhaven. I'm not destroying you. I'm just turning on the lights. The destruction, you did that to yourself. She opened the door. 2 federal agents were waiting in the hallway. Mr. Sterling, one of them said, stepping into the room. You have the right to remain silent. The arrest of Alexander Sterling was the media event of the decade. The footage of him being led out of the lawyer's office in handcuffs was played on loop in Times Square. Titan Global's stock plummeted like a stone, losing 60% of its value in 24 hours. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. The atmosphere inside the Titan Global boardroom on the 50th floor was apocalyptic. Executives were shouting into phones, trying to calm panicked investors. The chairman, Marcus Thorne, looked like he was having a heart attack. We are finished, the CFO moaned, head in his hands. The assets are frozen. The EPA is fining us billions for the Hades leak. We can't make payroll next week. We need a miracle, Marcus said grimly. We need a buyer, someone crazy enough to take on this debt and rebrand the company before we go bankrupt. The double doors at the end of the room swung open. The room went silent. Lily Sterling walked in. But she wasn't alone. She was flanked by a team of lawyers and analysts from Aura Inc. She walked to the head of the table, the seat Alexander used to occupy. She didn't ask for permission. She simply sat down. "You can't be here," Marcus Thorne sputtered. "This is a closed meeting." "I own 51% of the stock as of 10 minutes ago," Lily said calmly. "I bought the dip. I am the majority shareholder. This is my meeting." The board members exchanged shocked glances. They had underestimated her. Everyone had. "Gentlemen," Lily began, clasping her hands on the table. "Titan Global is a toxic brand. The name Sterling is poison, but the infrastructure is valuable. You have shipping lanes, warehouses, and hardware that Aura Inc. needs to expand." "You want to absorb us?" the CFO asked. "Into Aura." "No," Lily said. "I'm going to dissolve Titan Global. It will cease to exist. In its place, we will launch a new division, Aura Logistics." "But what about us?" Marcus asked, his voice trembling. "The board." Lily looked at each of them. These were the men who had laughed at her jokes at Christmas parties only because they were polite but never looked her in the eye. The men who enabled Alexander's arrogance. "I have reviewed the minutes of the last 5 years of board meetings," Lily said. "It seems many of you signed off on budget cuts that directly funded Project Hades. Negligence is not a quality I look for in leadership." She slid a stack of blue folders across the table. "These are your severance packages. They are fair, but they are final. You are all fired." Pandemonium broke out. "You can't do this. I've been here for 20 years. We didn't know. You should have known." Lily's voice cut through the noise like a whip. "It was your job to know. Now please take your folders and leave. My team has work to do." One by one, the defeated men grabbed their folders and shuffled out of the room. They were rich, powerful men brought low by the woman they had dismissed as furniture. Finally, only Marcus Thorne remained. He looked at Lily with a strange mix of resentment and respect. "He really didn't know what he had did he," Marcus murmured. "No," Lily replied softly. "He didn't." "What will you do with him, Alexander?" "I won't do anything," Lily said. "The justice system will handle him. I have a company to run." Marcus nodded and left. Lily sat alone in the massive boardroom. It was quiet. She looked out the window at the city she now effectively controlled a large part of. Her phone buzzed. It was Aunt Marie. "Turn on the TV, Channel 4. Lily grabbed the remote and clicked the screen on the wall. A news reporter was standing outside the federal courthouse. "Breaking news," the reporter said. "Alexander Sterling has been denied bail due to flight risk. In a shocking turn of events, sources say his defense attorney has quit and his assets have been completely frozen to pay for the environmental cleanup in Oak Haven. But the biggest story is the rise of his wife, Lily Sterling." The screen cut to a montage of Lily at the gala playing the piano and then walking into Titan HQ today. The world is calling her the Iron Phoenix, from a silent wife to the most powerful CEO in tech. But we have received a statement from Mr. Sterling's camp, or what's left of it. The screen showed a grainy video recorded from inside the holding cell. Alexander looked haggard, unshaven, and desperate. "Lily," Alexander said to the camera, his voice breaking. "If you're watching this, please. I'm your husband. We made vows, for better or worse. You can't let me rot in here. Use your lawyers. Get me out. I'll sign anything. I'll work for you. Just, please don't leave me alone." The video cut off. Lily stared at the screen. A year ago, that plea would have broken her heart. A year ago, she would have done anything for a scrap of his attention. She picked up her phone and dialed the number for the prison warden, a contact her lawyers had provided. "This is Warden Miller," the voice answered. "Warden, this is Lily Sterling." "Mrs. Sterling? We saw the news. Is there something you need regarding your husband's visitation rights?" Lily looked at the empty chair at the end of the table. "Yes," she said. "Mr. Sterling has been requesting a visit. I need you to pass him a message." "Of course. What is the message?" "Tell him," Lily said, her voice steady and strong, "that his wife is busy. She has a meeting." She hung up the phone. She stood up, straightened her blazer, and walked out of the room. Her team was waiting in the lobby. The engineers, the coders, the visionaries, the people who actually built things. "All right, everyone," Lily said, clapping her hands. "We have a lot of mess to clean up. Let's get to work." 1 year later, the cafeteria of the upstate correctional facility smelled of bleach and boiled cabbage. It was a far cry from the truffle-scented dining rooms of Manhattan. Alexander Sterling sat at a metal table staring at a tray of gray meatloaf. His hair, once styled by the best barbers in the city, was now graying and shorn close to his skull. His hands, which used to sign million-dollar checks, were rough from working in the prison laundry. He was tired, but mostly he was forgotten. The other inmates didn't care that he used to be a billionaire. To them, he was just Sterling, the guy who poisoned a town to save a few bucks. He had no friends inside. "Sterling, visitor," a guard barked from the doorway. Alexander's head snapped up. His heart raced. Visitor. No one visited him. Sophia was serving her own sentence in a minimum security facility in Connecticut and had already sold her story to a tabloid, blaming everything on him. His old friends, like Marcus Thorne, pretended he was dead. "Who is it?" Alexander asked, standing up. "Lawyer," the guard grunted. Alexander's shoulders slumped. Just a lawyer, probably bringing more bad news about the civil lawsuits. He shuffled down the hallway in his orange jumpsuit, his shackles clanking. He was led into a small room divided by a thick pane of plexiglass. He sat down and looked up. It wasn't a lawyer. Lily sat on the other side of the glass. She looked radiant. She was wearing a simple cream-colored blouse and a blazer. No massive diamonds, no flashy logos. Just an air of quiet, unbreakable confidence. She looked younger than she had a year ago. The weight of his shadow was gone. Alexander grabbed the phone receiver, his hand trembling. "Lily." His voice was raspy. "You came." Lily picked up her receiver. "Hello, Alexander." I didn't think you would," he stammered. He pressed his hand against the glass. "God, you look beautiful. I saw you on the news. Time Magazine's Person of the Year. The billionaire who healed the world. I'm proud of you." Lily didn't smile. Her expression was unreadable. "I didn't come here for your pride, Alexander. I came to bring you this." She slid a manila envelope through the document slot. Alexander opened it with shaking hands. It was a document. Decree of absolute divorce. He stared at the paper. Tears welled up in his eyes. "Lily, please, don't do this. I know I messed up. I know I was awful. But I've had time to think. A lot of time. I remember the beginning. Before the business took over. We had good moments, didn't we?" "We had moments where you tolerated me," Lily corrected him gently. "We never had a marriage, Alexander. We had a merger." "I can change," he pleaded. "I get parole in 8 years. Wait for me. We can start over. I'll work for you. I'll be your assistant. Anything. Just don't leave me alone in here." Lily looked at him, and for the first time her eyes softened. Not with love, but with pity. "Alexander, do you remember the 3rd anniversary, the night of the gala?" "Yes," he whispered. "The worst night of my life." "That morning," Lily said, "I had actually made you a gift. It wasn't a watch or a car. I had written a piece of music for you, a waltz. I was going to play it for you at home, just the two of us. I wanted to try one last time to reach you." Alexander bowed his head. I didn't know." "No, you didn't. You told me to shut up and put on a coat because I was embarrassing you." She leaned closer to the glass. "That was the moment the door closed, Alexander. It didn't close today with these papers. It closed when you decided my voice wasn't worth hearing." She stood up. "Lily, wait." Alexander panicked. "What about the company? What about the house, the Hamptons?" "The Hamptons' house was sold," she said. The proceeds went to the Oak Haven Medical Fund. We're building a new cancer research center there. It's named after your mother. I thought she deserved a legacy that wasn't tarnished by her son." Alexander slumped back in his chair. She had thought of everything. She had even honored his mother, something he hadn't done in years. "One last thing," Lily said, pausing at the door. "What?" He whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I put $50 in your commissary account. Buy yourself some better soap. You used to hate the smell of cheap detergent." She hung up the phone. A sleek electric sedan and Aura prototype was waiting. The driver opened the door. It wasn't Henry. Henry had retired to Florida on a generous pension Lily provided. "Where to Ms. Sterling?" the driver asked. "Back to the office." Lily looked up at the sky. It was a brilliant, endless blue. "No," she smiled. "Take me to the conservatory. I have a piano lesson." "A lesson, ma'am. You're a virtuoso." "There is always more to learn," Lily said, sliding into the car. "And for the first time in my life, I'm playing my own song." As the car drove away, leaving the gray walls of the prison behind, Lily didn't look back. She took out her tablet, approved a grant for young female coders, and then turned it off. She rolled down the window and let the wind catch her hair. She wasn't the invisible wife anymore. She was Lily. And the whole world was listening. Wow. What a journey. From being treated like furniture to owning the entire empire, Lily really showed us that silence is not weakness, it's just preparation. It's a powerful reminder to all of us. Never let anyone define your worth based on their own ignorance. Alexander thought he was the king of the world, but he forgot that a king is nothing without the people who support him. So here is my question for you. Have you ever been underestimated by someone close to you? Did you prove them wrong, or are you still planning your Lily moment? Let me know your story in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of justice and triumph, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on the next dramatic story. Thanks for watching, and remember, the loudest power often comes from the quietest room. See you in the next video.